Do you love going to Broadway shows, but can't go now because Broadway's closed? Join tour guide Tim and Belasco too as they bring Broadway history to you. Grab your Broadway passport for what's in store on your Virtual Broadway Tour.
If you followed along on our Virtual Broadway tour of the Circle in the Square Theater last week, you probably have a good idea of where we're heading this week. Its next door neighbor, the Gershwin. Along with the Circle in the Square, the Gershwin, originally the Urus, was incorporated into the design of the Paramount skyscraper on the site of the demolished Capitol Theater. Unlike the Circle in the Square, which was subterranean, the Gershwin is actually located a flight above street level. Literally. When theatergoers walk up to the lobby doors of the theater, they're actually walking under the theater itself. That's right. Those columns in the breezeway are supporting the entire 1,933-seat theater. When the Gershwin opened in November of 1972, the exterior was unlike any other Broadway theater. Jutting out from the back of the Paramount Plaza building, the theater is shaped like a cube and covered in smooth white stone. The interior, designed by architect Ralph Allswang, features a vast orchestra section and a small mezzanine with stadium seating throughout. And being the largest theater on Broadway, it has earned a reputation as being barn-like with its cavernous, open playing space. It would take productions with massive production elements to fill it, which is exactly what the first production in the theater's history set out to do. On the heels of his hit musical Hair at the Biltmore Theater and the outright flop Dude at the Broadway Theater, composer Galt McDermott had one more show up his sleeve. Entitled Up and set on an asteroid in outer space in the year 2972, this outlandish story was deemed the perfect inaugural production for the new Urus Theater, as the Gershwin was then called. To achieve a zero-gravity type feel on stage, the entire deck of the theater was equipped with trampolines for the performers. To simulate outer space, 350,000 ping pong balls were strung up from the ceiling along the back wall that slowly moved back and forth. Many think that Elphaba in Wicked was the first lead character painted a different color at the theater, but the leads in Up, Raul Julia and Virginia Vestoff, were painted blue and gold respectively. Raul Julia played an intergalactic trash collector amid a colony of social outcasts who lived on the asteroid with him. How could this go wrong? Ping pong balls, trampolines, and lots of body paint added up to a budget of $1 million, the first show in Broadway history to cross that financial threshold. 7 shows later, it closed, losing all $1 million. And why haven't you ever heard of Up? Well, it had changed names before opening because of the cringe-inducing pun of the original name of the show combined with the original name of the theater, Up Urus. The producers opted for Via Galactica instead, which you still haven't heard of. You can't make this stuff up. With the trampolines and ping pong balls of Via Galactica cleared out of the theater, a slew of other shows attempted to fill the cavernous walls of the Urus Theater, with few succeeding. In 1979, one show was set to change the theater's luck, Stephen Sondheim's Sweeney Todd. The Hal Prince-led production featured a mammoth set designed by Eugene Lee. Of the $900,000 budget, $200,000 of that went to the set alone. The show would eventually recoup its investment after subsequent productions after the original production closed. In the 1990s, Hal Prince was back at the Urus again, since renamed for George and Ira Gershwin in 1983, this time with a lavish revival of Showboat. The cast boasted over 70 people on a massive set designed by none other than Eugene Lee back again. With such robust production costs, the show closed at a loss on Broadway before trying to recoup their investment on tour. And then, in 2003, it appeared a new show would finally settle in at the Gershwin, Wicked. To fill the theatrical space, the set was designed to look like the inner workings of a clock, complete with a dragon above, as detailed in the novel the show is based on. And who designed that incredible masterpiece of a set? Why, you guessed it, Eugene Lee. It wasn't just the set of Wicked that was over the top. The spectacular costumes designed by Susan Hilferty are whimsical, grand, and colorful, and ultimately earned her a Tony Award along the way. She opted for Edwardian-era costumes, but with an Ozian twist. Everything in the show is asymmetrical or off-kilter. The show features 350 costumes and pairs of shoes and 80 wigs. The average costume costs anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 and is built and sewn and beaded by expert technicians. The shoes are all custom for every performer and cost thousands of dollars. And those 80 wigs, each is built at an average cost of $2,500, bringing the original costume budget to approximately $3 million. That is a lot of beads. Budgets aside, one issue arose when Hilferty was first designing Wicked. The ruby red slippers are trademarked by Warner Brothers. The original Oz books written by L. Frank Baum were in the public domain, so Hilferty opted for the silver shoes used in Baum's novels. But in a pivotal scene in Act 2 of Wicked, all eyes are on those slippers, and she really wanted them to be red. So Hilferty orchestrated technical elements with lights so the shoes appeared red, and as long as the words ruby red slippers are never uttered, no infringement occurs, and Wizard of Oz enthusiasts are happy. And over 16 years later, it still works perfectly, every single night. Hello! Happy Saturday noon on Broadway. Once again, week 38. Can you believe it that we've been doing this for 38 weeks? This is our lives. It's a great life. It has its moments, but for the most part, it's great. Welcome to this week's Saturday Noon on Broadway as part of our Virtual Broadway Tour Series. Every week, we're coming to you live with someone who's worked at the theater we're featuring that week. And this week, we are joined by the incredible, the talented, the very nice Marianne Torres from Wicked at the Gershwin Theater. For those that aren't familiar with me or Broadway Up Close, my name is Tim Dolan. I'm an actor and the owner of Broadway Up Close in New York City. For the last 10 years, 11 years, I lied to you, 11 years now, we have hit the sidewalks of Times Square unearthing secrets, history, fun facts, ghost stories, and telling you all the things you didn't know that you really want to know about our 41 Broadway theaters. I have an entire team that I call my green team that are comprised of actors and stage managers that are your eyes and windows to the world of our insane theatrical lives. We have 5 exterior tours that we've been offering for the last 11 years. And then in October of 2019, I was all dreams will eventually come true. I think we finally got an interior tour of Broadway's oldest theater, which is the Hudson. It's been there for 118 years. That's the only one of our tours currently not available because the Broadway is shut down, as I'm sure you know. Here we are. In addition to all of that, as if my life wasn't insane enough, I decided to open a gift shop in the middle of Times Square with a 6-foot-tall Broadway sign next to it. That is closed. So as you've been following along, I'm sure you know that is an entire e-commerce store now. So all of the information for all of that is on our website, BroadwayUpClose.com. You shouldn't head there now. You should wait till we're done talking to Marianne, and then you should go give me all your money. Sounds great. I never envisioned a world without Broadway. If you've joined us before, you know to me that I've said before that to me, New York City and Broadway are synonymous. As long as there's an island that's 13 miles long in between 2 rivers, our theaters are open. Why wouldn't they be? And so it never really occurred to me that this was a possibility. What initially was going to be 2 weeks became a month, became 6 months. And then now here we are on the eve of an entire year of these buildings being shuttered. And I walked on the sidewalks and they're frozen in time, March 12th, 2020. It's a very strange thing. And so there's some hope on the horizon. I think there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. Vaccines are being sped up. And so I think, I don't want to say the end is near, but I feel like we're getting closer than we have been before. And so in this world of not seeing you, not seeing all of our friends in Times Square, I thought we'll go theater by theater chronologically from the oldest to the newest. We'll do 1 theater a week. There's 41 theaters. That'll be 41 weeks. Here we are. And week 38, the Gershwin. I hope you've enjoyed all the history, the fun facts, lots of Wicked stuff that we'll talk about with Marianne today about. How's today going to work? For today's series, we'll learn all about Marianne's theatrical journey, her time working on Wicked, of course, and a multitude of other shows. If you have any questions for her or me along the way, drop them in the comments. And for those that are joining us live, let us know in the comments where you're watching from so we can see where our stories are going today. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. Yeah. Without further ado, join me in welcoming Broadway's Marianne Torres. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tim.
Hi, my love. How are you?
Good. How are you?
So good. Thank you. Tell us are you in New York City? Where are you at in life right now?
No, I'm actually in Fort Myers, Florida at the moment because I'm working on a concert version of Evita with the Gulf Coast Symphony down here. Yeah.
Tell me everything. Oh my God. I think you're the first person I have interviewed in 38 weeks that's actively employed in the moment. This is incredible.
Wild. Yeah. I feel incredibly lucky. We had our first we have 2 performances. Our first was last night, and then we have one tonight. We're performing at the Barbara Mann Performing Arts Center, which is like the house basically where tours, come in and perform. So it's a pretty big space, but they're only selling it at 25% capacity, so as to keep everything, very distanced.
Sure.
So it's great. I mean, it's all very, COVID conscious. And it just feels really great to be on a stage again with musicians and other actors and do the thing.
Yes. I mean, oh God, I'm obsessed. I have so many questions about okay, wait, let's talk about you first, and then I'll have all my questions. I have lots of thoughts of you working in a pandemic, and it makes me very happy. But before that, I want to know about you, and for those who don't know you, tell us everything. So give us a mini version of Marianne Torres pre-New York City. So where you grew up, when you first fell in love with theater, when that turned into maybe I'll do this for a living, and then you set your suitcases down in Midtown Manhattan.
Great. Okay. So I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, was born there, grew up in Miami, did not grow up around much musical theater at all. Musical theater is a very American art form. So it wasn't really something that was ever really a part of my life.
Okay.
And then honestly, the way this happened and the way I got into this is sort of wild. And I'm just so thankful that it's worked out. I didn't think it through. I started singing in high school. My sophomore year of high school, I joined my choir. I was really shy and wanted to make friends. I knew I liked singing.
You're in Miami at this point.
Yeah, I'm living in Miami. Okay. Yeah. So I joined my choir just to make some friends and sing in the choir. And my choir teacher was like, "You're pretty good at this. Like maybe I'll give you the solo, or maybe I'll do this." And then I started to sort of really enjoy singing a lot. And I sort of realized that maybe I was good at it. I just never really thought about it or didn't think it was a big deal. I don't know. And then my senior year of high school, so I became more and more involved with choir and started to sort of expand my knowledge of, my choir nerd friends started fellow choir nerds. I was a choir nerd as well. Started introducing me to musicals and stuff, but again, very limited knowledge. I think I knew 2 or 3. I was obsessed with Rent.
Of course. I was going to say, if I know, I was I think we're around the same age, so it had to be Rent.
Yeah, Rent and Jekyll and Hyde.
Me too. Oh God, I was going to say, and Jekyll and Hyde were the only 2 things.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera. I think I saw the Phantom of the Opera tour when it came around.
Oh my God, we are the same people.
Yeah, so unaware. I was I'm going to be Christine one day. And no, I'm not ever going to be Christine. That's not happening. But my senior year of high school came around. I thought I was going to go to the local, public university, Florida International University, and figure out what my major was going to be. And one of my choir friends was I'm going to audition for the musical theater program at the University of Miami. You should audition with me. And I was really? I was you can major in that? And she was yeah, it's doing Rent and Les Mis in college. And I was that sounds cool.
Great.
I made the biggest decision of my life. And I auditioned for the University of Miami musical theater program.
What did you sing? Someone Like You.
No, I sang I Dreamed a Dream from Les Mis. Sure. So appropriate for a 17-year-old.
Correct. You're prostitution, check. Having a child, check. I know about all of this. Great.
Yeah, and I no idea what those lyrics meant. No. Nothing. Zero clue what I'm singing about. And I did a monologue from a monologue book, I think. It's, yeah. And I got into the program and then actually learned about musical theater, learned about the classics. I really knew nothing. I didn't know what Guys and Dolls was, I was a musical theater major. I didn't know who Kander and Ebb were. I had a lot of catching up to do.
A learning curve, we'll call that.
Yeah. So then, went to college. Right after college, I remember sitting in, the thing is in Miami, there's very much a culture of you don't really leave. You kind of just grow in Latin culture, it's like you grow up, you buy a house next to your parents' house and you have kids and you don't leave. But I knew that if I wanted to really pursue this, I had to leave. And I remember right after graduating, sitting in my mom's backyard and being like, I think I just gotta like go. And I texted one of my college classmates and I was like, are you moving to New York? Can I be your roommate? And she was like, actually, I'm looking at apartments this weekend. I'll look for a 3-bedroom.
Wow.
It'll be cheaper for us to split it. Like all of these huge life decisions were sort of made quite quickly, which I think says something about like following your gut, you know?
Yeah, and quickly, but also like they all feel perfect. Like they all feel like the timing is like, well, sure, okay, sounds great. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that'll work. Great.
Yeah. So then I moved to New York.
Wow, incredible. Okay, so then you get here on a whim. You're here, you're in a 3-bedroom. You start auditioning. What is your first moment the first moment of validation on whatever level that you are talented, maybe this could be a thing, you're not completely insane for moving from a backyard in Miami to Manhattan?
You know, it was hard at first. I moved to New York with no agent, with no equity card, like kind of not knowing what to do. My friends and I just sort of got each other through it. We figured out, you know, where auditions happened, what to do, when to show up. So it got hard. My first moment of validation, and this is crazy, but my first moment of validation was actually, I like crashed an equity call for Rent, because Rent was still running on Broadway at the time, because I'm old.
Yeah, you look great.
I crashed an equity call for Rent. And, you know, equity calls are required calls. They weren't really casting. It was just something you have to do every 6 months. And I didn't have my equity card, but I got in. Like a lot of people didn't show up, so they were starting to see non-union actors. And I sang. It was for Rachel Hoffman, was in the room. She's casting director with Bernie Telsey. And I did my little 16 bars, and she looked at me and she went, "Have you been in for the Wicked Witch for Elphaba?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Okay." Months go by, and then suddenly I get a call.
No, come on.
From Chelsea to come in and audition for Wicked. I mean, and I didn't book it for years after. Like this was just the first initial moment of like, okay, I managed to stand out in this, you know, these calls are overwhelming. There are a lot of people, a lot of talented people, and you just kind of, it feels a little like a crapshoot, and you're just like, how are you
insane? Like, why am I going to be the one that gets picked?
Right.
What's so special about me?
Exactly. And I don't know, Rachel Hoffman, and maybe, you know, I had really long dark hair, really long hair. So I don't know, maybe she was like, she kind of looks like a witch. But yeah, that was the first moment where I was like, maybe I'm doing something right. Yeah. And it still took a lot of learning. And I, you know, I realized after a while of auditioning and sort of like getting kind of far, but not getting things, that I did still need to fine tune some things and take classes in New York and voice lessons and stuff like that. And just because college education is great, but it's also very important to take class and learn from the people in the city who really know what's going on and what it is that people want and expect from you, you know?
And what year is this? Like so Rent closed in 2008. So it's
Yeah, 2005. I moved to New York in 2005.
Okay. And yes, and I was 2003. So yeah, and in those moments, like when I got here, my first set of headshots was black and white. You're still reading backstage out of a newspaper. And so I feel like for us in that early 2000 curve, a lot of major epic things of the business changed. Like suddenly everyone had color headshots. Suddenly everything is done online. Suddenly email submission. Suddenly you're getting offers via email, and so it was a huge learning curve. But you're right. When you go with these professors in college, you know, they were in the industry 20 years ago.
Right.
You know? And so it is. That's incredible. And the classes you're taking are more technique based. Is that the fine tuning, or it's audition skills, becoming Marianne Torres in the room skills?
Audition skills and stuff. Like audition skills, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, you have the training. But now, I think where I sort of always got in my own way was just, I think confidence, I think something like taking a class like audition skills just helps you build your confidence and helps you get used to doing it over and over again.
Yep.
And I would become a robot. Like when I didn't really know what I was, I kind of just like walked in and was like, hello. And like, wasn't super friendly because I just thought I had to be professional.
Right.
So I didn't really let people see who I was.
Right.
And, so I was just like this singing, talking head. And I needed to just figure out who I was, what I was presenting, how I wanted people to, who I was, so that I knew how I wanted people to see me,
Right.
And yeah.
Because it feels like, and your resume and background, it seems that this is true, that you're not going to be in the chorus of 42nd Street. You're not going to be, Tumble Brutus, whatever, the cat, so it feels like the auditions you're going in for, especially now, you want to walk in and they want to see who you are, because you are going to be front and center, and it's going to be Marianne's take on this role.
Right, exactly. And it's really I've always said, like, I can't do ensemble stuff because I'm not talented enough to be.
Come on.
I'm not a dancer. I can't do it. There's a lot of stuff, I have a very specific skill set.
Right.
And so in order to really get work using that specific skill set, you have to really there's a big ensemble of a lot of people. There's more employment opportunity. But when you're trying to, book a principal role or even understudy a principal role, it's the jobs are limited. Yeah. So you have to really be really solid in who you are, and let people really see how you would interpret the role and what your take on it would be.
For sure. And okay, so then you go in for Elphaba the first time, and the songs are so hard to sing. Biggest understatement of this entire I love a little so the first time you go in to sing this, is it these notes, this F, that high F, these awful vowels, team, all of that, that fits that's in your wheelhouse already? Or this is the first moment of, I can kind of do that, but I should really work harder on this, because this is where my voice is going?
I think with me, it's kind of in my wheelhouse. That stuff it was more for me about focusing on storytelling, and trusting that my voice can do it. Like, I think it was about trusting it. And it's why I kept auditioning and not get it until I finally got it, because I was nervous, and I think I wasn't trusting my own ability enough.
Yeah.
And I would push a lot. And I was like, I'm working harder than I need to. I was working too hard.
Yeah.
I think was my thing, is that I was like, this is hard. I have to work hard. And like, I'd go sing it in a voice lesson, and like, yes, it's challenging, but like, I could do it. I could sing it in my shower just fine.
Right.
It was just about, I think my biggest thing was that I was working too hard. And I think, again, that was a thing about me trusting my skills and my ability. And I think because I started doing this relatively late compared to other people, most of my friends have been doing musical theater since they were kids.
Correct.
I started to let that get to me, like, started to get in my head about it and be like, well, I don't know enough. I'm not as good. I'm not as prepared as these people. So then I think that started to really get to me. And it took.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because the people behind the table, how would they ever know that?
No, I know.
And I don't think they care.
Right. It's so important. It's like the things you feed yourself that aren't even true, but you just convince yourself of all of this, like, well, I'm not as prepared as the girl who's been doing this since she was 5,
right?
Who played Annie in her community theater production of it.
Comes in on point.
Yeah.
Like, all right, relax. Okay, we get it. Yeah.
My big thing was a confidence thing more than anything.
Yeah.
And being really clear about storytelling. And I definitely did. I will admit, my first few years in New York relied on the fact I came into this, as a singer first. It was my introduction to theater. So I think often relied on being impressive vocally, and that's not how to get a job. Right. I mean, storytelling is really the way to go. Everybody's a good singer. Every girl they're bringing in for Elphaba is a good singer.
Right.
But you have to also tell her story and be an actor.
funny that. Imagine that. Yeah. And then when's the first time that when's your first you are hired as Elphaba? What capacity? Where? Tell us everything.
So 5 years in, I finally got the job. This about 15 auditions. Every time there was an opening, they'd bring me in. Craig Burns at Telsey Casting, I owe him everything because I wouldn't get it, and he would still bring me in, and he would always be like, it didn't work out this time. You're going to keep getting into for the show because I know that you're right for it. And I think me personally, I needed those 5 years to grow and to mature. And then I finally got it. I was hired as the Elphaba standby on the first national tour of Wicked.
Okay.
Yeah. And
okay, so then on top of everything, now you go into the standby life. So where you do it once every 3 weeks and you have no stamina built up and you're just expected to be as incredible as the girl who is nuanced and does this 8 times a week. What is that it? I mean, it's
that's exactly it.
It's a crazy life.
It's really hard having played the role 8 times a week and standing by. They both have their challenges, but it is mentally a lot harder to be a standby and have people expect the role is just as hard, you know, and it's not in your body the same way as a girl who does it 8 times a week. And it takes, but I do remember when I was being put into the show, the music director said, I'm just going to let you know, it will probably take you about 6 months as a standby to feel good in the role.
Wow.
Which is kind of like a nice heads up.
Yeah. Because that's 6 months of mental.
Right. And then not knowing, I mean, I had my put in, you know, my like final dress rehearsal as Elphaba, and then didn't perform the show for 3 weeks.
Crazy.
So it's just such a beast of a role that like, it does feel easier. When I actually played the role, I'm sure I'm getting ahead of myself, but when I actually played the role, it didn't feel as hard. I was exhausted, but it didn't feel as challenging. It didn't feel as like mentally, emotionally, physically draining because I knew how to pace myself. I knew how to do this thing. But as a standby, you're just figuring it out, and you don't have that thing when you're doing a show every night. And I'm sure you know what that's like. You mess something up or something goes wrong, and you know, like, okay, well, I have tomorrow to fix it.
Right.
And it's fine. There'll be another show. But when you're a standby, you do it, and then you're just like, when will I get to do it again?
Right.
When will I get to work on this thing? It takes a really long time to make it yours, you know, because at that point you are kind of expected to recreate the performance of the person who's doing it 8 times a week. And they are expected to recreate a performance Tony Award winning performance.
Right.
From 2003. So it's just wild. It's definitely a learning curve. It took me a long time to really feel confident in it.
Right. So then with first moment of being green, I feel like it's an iconic moment for every girl who wants to be eligible, especially one who's been auditioning for it for 5 years. What is that first moment? What is that conversation like? Tell me everything.
Oh, it's amazing. It's such a dream. I mean, it's that moment, that you dream about, and you see yourself in the mirror, and the makeup is really just so incredible that it just changes everything. Once you have it on, you're just like, okay, like I am this girl. And you also, on a, you know, just purely vanity standpoint, you feel really beautiful. I didn't expect to feel beautiful in it, but the makeup is really beautiful. And the makeup artists who, you know, work for Wicked are all so talented. And
who was yours? Christina
Tracy.
Oh, I love
and she's also just like the kindest, most supportive
therapist.
Well, that's the thing with those people that do the job. Every time I've done the show, the makeup supervisor, the makeup artist becomes one of my closest friends because they're there with you through this whole journey, and they're the person you go to, and they're the people that keep you calm and hold your hand, because no matter what, sometimes you're going to have a bad show or you're going to feel insecure, and like they're the ones who get you through it. It's amazing. So yeah, I had Christina, who is like an angel.
Yes.
And that made it even better. I have so many pictures from my first screening.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. This is like all the green selfies.
Yeah.
And Christina, I can't remember. Once you're in the show, of course, you have your 25 minutes pre-show of getting green and doing all your things. Once you're then in the run of the show for those 2 hours and whatever minutes, she is with you and continues to touch up. I can't remember.
Yeah. I mean, she also has a few other things that they have to do, because they touch up like the monkeys' faces, and they do the Tin Man at some point, and they kind of help Horrible as well. But for the most part, the makeup supervisor is with you, and they kind of touch you up. They have a few built-in cues through the show. The few moments we're off stage that Christina is there, or makeup artist is there, touching you up. And then in Act 2, the makeup intensifies. So then they kind of like just build upon what they've already started with. Elphaba gets older. Everything is more intense. She has really fierce cheekbones.
Eyelashes. To do it to Amazon. Yeah, it's a great, it's, you know, even Cats, which is so makeup heavy. I feel like this is one of the shows where the makeup is such an integral part of it for this character. And so it's always interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard any girl say, though, it made me feel beautiful, which I really love.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it just, I don't know. I just love Elphaba. It just really, I loved feeling like her. I don't know. I think I understood her.
Sure.
It felt really beautiful in the green.
It's incredible. And your voice, I was watching bootleg videos, which we
How dare you? That's illegal.
We won't talk about bootlegs, but I was like, I'm just going to see if there's anything. And it's the voice. Your voice is it's so clear. It's so easy. And I think with so many of the girls who do it, it is not clear and easy. And you feel like, oh, they're really getting through this. But for some reason, when the vocals are out of the way, it becomes about storytelling, and it's really good. You're very talented. I like you. You're great.
Thank you.
Okay, Tom has a question. He says, any funny and/or horror stories of having to go on as Elphaba mid-show? Tell us anything.
This happened a few times.
Okay.
The first time when I was a standby on tour, I was like sitting backstage. So, you know, I would usually hang out with the swings backstage, and I think we were on a laptop watching The Office and like eating snacks. You get that dreaded call through the little intercom, like, Marianne Torres, please come to the Elphaba dressing room. And I was like, no, it's happening. It's happening. Our Elphaba had injured herself, and she went off stage, said, I can get through as much as you need me to get through. Let me know when Mariand is ready. So she went and did Popular. She was on the beds with Popular, and she was like, I can get through Popular because she doesn't do anything in it.
Right, she's sitting on a bed just bleeding.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were getting me green as that was happening. And basically, I don't know if you remember, Elphaba, so right after Popular, Elphaba runs off, and then there's a quick change there where we put on like a little white coat. She's kind of Galinda-fied. Okay, yeah. She has like this cute little white jacket and a little flower in her hair. So they basically had me ready in that outfit. Okay. So our Elphaba ran off, and I just ran on. And thankfully, in that scenario, we were about the same height and like the same build, so it didn't look awkward. Sure. I definitely, and then they had to make the announcement at intermission. That was my only like mid act one, which it was really hard. That one was the hardest one.
Yeah, because then you run on and you sing what? I'm not that. And then to define gravity.
Exactly. It's like the crazy part of Act One. Like the first half of Act One, obviously aside from The Wizard and I, there's a lot of storytelling, a lot of exposition, a lot of scenes with Dillamond and things like that. It's like, it's after I'm Not That Girl where things get crazy.
Yeah. You're like, this is fun. This is great.
So, yeah. And the other times I think I've gone on mid-show about 4 times. The other times it was always at intermission, which is hard because act 2 is like, obviously as an actor, you would like to have the first half of the story so that you can be where you need to be in act 2. Sure. But I always I really love act 2 mature Elphaba. So it wasn't as hard for me to tap into that. Yeah. But yeah, those were definitely easier. And at that point, I'd been doing the show much longer, so it didn't feel as jarring. But the first time was definitely, I remember at curtain call, I just wept. I was so nervous. I just was so relieved it was over.
I can't even imagine. I've understudied a lot, but never had a mid-show. And I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I think it's you, and you're going to tell me if it's you, dropped the broom or something during Defying Gravity. Is that you?
Drop it. Yes. I didn't drop it during Defying Gravity. I just didn't get up there with it. So thankfully I didn't drop it from the air because that would have been bad. Correct. But what happened, I got into the harness to fly. I'm holding my broom. Usually, so they have us kind of adjust because the harness has a little skirt on it, so they're once you get on, adjust it, make sure that it's not all tangled into your feet so that it really looks like it's your dress. So I was doing my little adjustments, holding the broom, and it just slipped out of my hand. And I was already, once that thing locks, there's no getting out of it. So I was like, oh, and I'm trying to bend over, but obviously I'm harnessed in.
It's me.
Oh no. So then I was trying to do the soccer ball kick. I was putting my foot under the stick of the broom and trying to pick it up to myself. And that didn't work. And so then I just did Defying Gravity without a broom. And I just did a little fist bump at the end. And I was saying, oh. Yeah.
Best thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
And of course, in true Wicked fandom form, within minutes after the end of the show, within minutes, there was a YouTube video.
Come on, these people, how?
Marianne Torres broom draw.
Oh my God.
It still exists because Wicked often takes down the bootlegs, but yeah, wow. I got an Instagram message being great show, you dropped the broom. And I was like, I'm aware.
Oh my God, the notes for the fan. I kind of like it different. Could you do it different? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The _@wiz.com. Sure, I'd love to take your notes.
Definitely feedback at the stage door all the time. Oh, you made a different choice today. Oh, this was a little different. I was like, just being an actor.
Feel the moment. Just trying to. Crazy. Caitlin says, was Galinda or other characters shocked when you came running on stage unexpectedly? Or are they at that point, everyone's aware that you're being swapped out mid-show?
Everyone's usually aware. I mean, except sometimes the conductor doesn't know because they're the show and don't have a minute to answer because they usually have a little phone and they're able to pick up the phone and stage management calls. But when they're in the thick of it, that transition from popular into that next scene, it's all music. So he didn't have a time to look down. So I suddenly run on stage and he's like, oh,
we're doing this.
Well, this is what's happening. So yeah, but I think the cast is usually aware.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah. Okay. So then you eventually, we'll say graduate from, even though, well, sure, we're going to call it graduation. You graduate into doing the show 8 times a week on the tour, Broadway. Tell us everything.
Yeah. I mean, that was my journey with Wicked is very lengthy. I did that tour. So as a standby for 2 years. Wow. And I went back to New York and I suddenly was I was at peace. I did Wicked. I played Elphaba. Let's see what else is out there, Yeah. And, you never really know. Wicked doesn't really have a very clear path of oh, if you do this, then you're going to get promoted to this. It kind of sometimes feels a little random. So I knew not to get my hopes up or to be a lot of times people go from standing by on tour to standing by on Broadway, which was that, was kind of a dream, but I didn't want to set myself up for disappointment. So I just moved on. Okay. And did other things, worked on some cool stuff. Really was like, didn't think Wicked would ever come back into my life. Yeah. The associate director of Wicked saw me in in a show on Broadway, which is where I was making my Broadway debut.
Which was next door, right? In Transit?
Yeah, in Transit at Circle in the Square. And she saw me in the show, and then I guess she was like, oh my God, like her. Yeah. This was 5 years later. So yeah, my journey was
so good. Those featured moments you had in Transit were so nice.
Just thanks.
So you were like, come on, I'm feeling it.
I was like an MTA janitor.
Sure, who sings really high though, so they got it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So then she saw me, and then I got a call saying if I'd be interested in, coming in for the standby. I had to re-audition because it had been 5 years.
Yeah.
But I did, and I got it. So I went from in Transit closed, and a month later I went into Wicked on Broadway.
Wow.
And I was there for a year and a half as a standby. And then I think I got really confident in the role on Broadway. And, it's kind of an amazing gift to get to revisit a role 5 years later, after you have some life experience, after you grow as a human, as an actor. And it just was to me, it felt like a completely different performance. Like it just felt a lot more grounded. I felt better in it. I felt confident. So, I had renewed my contract already once, and they offered me another contract on Broadway as a standby. And I was like, I think I'm ready to take over the role. So I had to make the scary decision to leave a Broadway show, and be like, I think I have to just leave and say that I want the role. I have to ask for what I want. And then I was offered the role full-time on the second national tour. And I did that in 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. And how long did you do that on the tour for?
I did it for about 8 months.
Wow. What a crazy journey.
Yeah.
And especially with that 5-year break in between, that's incredible.
I'm grateful for the 5-year break. It's so funny because I remember when I first got back to New York, part of me was a little heartbroken, and I was like, oh, like, why haven't they asked me to do it on Broadway? But I'm actually so glad that my career has been about more than just Wicked. Obviously, Wicked is the coolest thing, and the thing, people ask me about the most, and I talk about the most, and it's had the biggest impact on my life. But I am so grateful that I got the chance to do other things and, just stretch challenge myself as an actor and take on different kinds of roles and work with different people. And I'm very grateful for the 5-year gap.
I love that. In that 5 years, is that Murder Ballad in South Florida? Is it that?
Murder Ballad in South Florida. I did the original full off-Broadway production of Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I forgot you were involved with that.
Yeah, in a tent.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I saw you in the tent.
Yeah.
Hold on, I forgot that that was you in that little tent. Was that crazy? How was it? Talk to us about that. And you did it all the way. Did you do it Ars Nova all the way?
I didn't do Ars Nova. I joined for the tent because the Ars Nova cast was pretty small. And then when they were going to do, a full commercial production, they realized they needed a bigger ensemble. They needed understudies. So then I joined. I also I have to say, being an understudy is the best training in the world. And I think everybody should be an understudy at least a few times in their career.
Yeah.
I started off understudying 2 roles and then took on a 3rd role kind of like as an emergency.
Wow. You're like, no, can do it. She'll be fine. You're like, we'll be fine.
Yeah. But it sort of really makes you a pro because you kind of have to be fearless and really be on your stuff, like really be on your game, because you never know when you're going to need to perform this, take on this big responsibility.
Yeah.
So I did that for the whole time. It was wild. It's this crazy little show based on a slice of war and peace.
Yeah.
I was like, I have no idea how this is going to be received. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
But what is this going to be like? And it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. And biggest takeaway, just working with Rachel Chafkin the director, who is just
a genius.
Yeah. Amazing. I'd follow her to the ends of the earth. She's incredible.
Crazy. So then what was it? So Heidi has a question, but I want to tag on to Heidi's question.
Mm-hmm.
He says, what was it like going from Circle in the Square to the Gershwin? So my challenge for you is, what was it like going from a tent on 45th Street to the Circle in the Square to the Gershwin?
Woo. I definitely, so many differences. Because, oh man, I really appreciated having 4 solid walls again.
Things that you never thought.
The tent, because oh my God, it was really cool at first when we were because we had 2 locations in the tent. We opened in the meatpacking district downtown, and then closed for a month, and then reopened in Midtown. Yeah. And at first, when we were in the meatpacking district, it was the summer. We had like this really cool little yard area. Like our green room was like an outdoor, like a backyard. And in New York, like a backyard is so rare. And in the summertime, it was so cool. And then we moved up to Midtown, where we did not have space for a backyard. And it was the dead of winter, and it was snowing, and the tent. So yes, they kept the tent heated. Yes, but like it still got cold.
Yeah, you're still in a tent.
You're still in a tent. Snow definitely like got into the tent, and we were in these skimpy little costumes. Yeah, and the dressing rooms were just like, the girls were all in one dressing area, and it was divided by a curtain, and like it was just it was really cool at first, and then you start to really appreciate, but I got used to it. And then, when I went to Circle in the Square, I was like, oh my God, walls. Private. I shared a dressing space with one person. We could have like conversations with the door closed. It was really nice. But then what was wild about Circle in the Square is that I was doing an a cappella musical. So that was a whole other thing on.
I can't imagine. And there was it's a cappella. There's no musicians. I know your music director was Rick Hip Flores. Is that who you're? Yeah. I love that.
So he was in, it's so funny. So he was in this little room, like in this little dungeon by himself with a keyboard, with a monitor. We all wore in-ears. Okay. And Rick would cue us in.
Okay.
And play chords with us throughout to keep us in tune, because it's just impossible. All of us, because it's not like we're all standing next to each other. We're doing a full musical. We're walking around. We're helping with set changes. We're changing. We would be singing incidental music, changing costumes. You know what I mean? Like it was literally like changing, going and like, so he had to play chords for us. And there was a click to keep us on the beat. Yeah. So then going from Circle in the Square, which is also just a really small, intimate house,
basement.
And then the Gershwin is the Gershwin. It's huge. And I mean, I just got goosebumps, but like I had a moment. I saw the original cast of Wicked in 2003 with my best friends. We flew in over a weekend from Miami, and we sat like all the way in the back, because that's the only thing we could afford. Yeah. I remember exactly where we were sitting. We were audience left, way up in the balcony. And I remember my best friend turning to me at intermission and being like, you can do that. And I was like, I don't know. And like, to walk into the Gershwin for the first time, and I looked right up at those seats, and I was like, man,
right.
Like it's wild. But like, so there's obviously the size difference. The Gershwin is just epic. It's huge. I mean, backstage, it's a maze. Like
huge.
It took me a while to not get lost back there.
It's great, because you just tight walls and room. Yeah. And
then again, like in transit, I mean, doing a cappella was really fun and amazing, and I'm so proud of what we did. But like, I missed having a conductor. I missed that relationship. Yeah. I missed hearing an orchestra warm up. So getting to have that again was like, oh yes, I love this. I love that collaboration in musical theater, because your conductor is almost your scene partner when you're up there. Like you're communicating with them almost as much as you're communicating with the people on stage. You know, they're just as vital. They're super important.
They're driving the conductor.
Yeah, they're driving the whole thing. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so then talk to us now about the shutdown, working during the shutdown, Evita. How does this come about? Had you done any other productions? Tell us about your life in the last year.
Well, I've been doing a lot of stuff like this, which has been so great to just, I just love how everyone's getting really creative and making it work. I've been, doing master classes and, teaching, and over the holidays, it was, I was doing a lot of like Zoom concerts. A lot of companies, because they couldn't have holiday parties for their employees, were kind of doing Zoom parties and hiring like Broadway talent. So like I did one where like a Rockette did a little bit of choreography, like taught a little bit of choreography. And then they had me representing Wicked and somebody from Hamilton. So I kept really busy. I mean, I was doing those a few times a week, which I was super grateful for the work, just singing Defying Gravity in my kitchen.
Right. Broom in hand. Paper in hand.
So I've been doing a lot of that. And then, I've been lucky. I've gotten to do I did like my first sort of like real life singing on a stage in October.
Okay.
A friend of mine, a co-worker of mine, Paul Massey, he's a music director, conductor, pianist, and he's so talented. And he asked me, he does a series called the Lyrics and Lyricists at the 92nd Street Y.
Yeah.
They usually do that a few times a year. And obviously, because they couldn't do it in person, he basically asked some singers to come in, record. They were still going to do the series, but it was just, we came in one at a time and recorded our sections. And then it was just streamed for audiences to be able to watch online. And that was the first, definitely nervous at first. I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands anymore when I perform. Like, wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I've been getting to do a few things like that. In January, I went up to ACT of Connecticut. It's a theater that is run by Brian Perry, who was my music director at Wicked on Broadway, and his husband, Dan Levine. And they decided to make we were in an intense quarantine bubble, a whole month, not seeing anybody else, getting COVID tested 3 times a week. And we filmed a film version of Stephen Schwartz's Snapshots.
Wow, yeah.
Sort of like a musical review.
Yeah.
Of we like shot a film version of this musical in Connecticut, and Stephen Schwartz was very involved. So that was really cool, just after, working on his show for so long, to actually get to collaborate with him.
Yeah.
But it's just wild. I mean, we were getting COVID tested every other day. We couldn't see any other humans.
Wow.
It was crazy because after, a week in the bubble, you're all safe to not wear your masks around each other anymore. And it was really weird at first to just be near other people and then it just got sad, because then we got really used to it and it kind of felt like life was back to normal.
Yeah.
And then we had to leave and we were like,
back on. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm here in Fort Myers, Florida, doing a concert version of Evita. I've done I did a production of Evita in Kansas City at Kansas City Rep.
Okay.
Then I did a show called Prince of Broadway, which was a retrospective of Hal Prince's career that played in Japan. It also was in New York, but I did it in Japan, and I was Ava in that thing, which we did. Okay. Yeah. So I'm very familiar with the material. So they somebody reached out to me about coming down here and doing it, because it's fast and furious. It's like 5 days of rehearsal and we just put this thing up. So they needed somebody who knew the score and
can just pop in.
Yeah, like my Chen and my Perron have also done it. So we all just jump in.
Yeah. And do you have thoughts? Evita seems to be one of these shows where, of course, the original production was Patti LuPone, who is not of the original ethnicity of Eva Peron. Do you have thoughts or feelings about that? Because I know in our industry that this seems to be one of those shows that is, it goes either way, and there's lots of controversy every time it happens. I imagine, having done it before, you have thoughts.
Of course I have thoughts. I mean, it's one of the few shows written, and it's such a powerful role, set in it's a very, it's based on a real person and, set in a real country. And I do think that should be considered when casting the show. Yeah. The argument for that is often that Argentinians, my husband is actually Argentinian. Argentinians are more European. And so like, it's okay to hire white people, to hire non-Latinos, but like, that just proves light-skinned Latinos exist. You can hire light-skinned Latinos. You know what I mean? If it's about looking like the characters,
right?
It's just, I don't find it a valid argument in that sense. And because it's about a spirit and an energy to who she was.
Yeah.
That I think, the woman there's this fire, and this is tricky. I'm not trying to get myself in trouble because of course.
No, and I don't want to.
I love Patti LuPone. She's a legend.
Yeah. And 19, whatever it was.
There were different times.
It's an entirely different world.
Yeah. I just think now, especially, my argument has always been, if the opportunities were even across the board, if the playing field it wouldn't matter as much. Right. But it's the fact that oftentimes Latinos get sort of like pigeonholed and stuck in this one little thing. So then if you're going to produce a show set in Latin America, my goodness.
Yeah.
Let us do it. Right.
we're here. We can only do it in the Heights so many times.
If the non-Latinx woman, who's playing Ava also gets to play all these other roles because she's white, if I should have those same opportunities, but because the opportunities are not the same,
right?
Let me have that one thing. That's my thing. It's about the playing field being even, which I think is my biggest argument with the show. And I just think authenticity is important. It hurts my soul. There is some Spanish speaking in the show, just in terms of a few words and stuff. And like, it's lazy, and it bothers me when I see the show and people can't pronounce those words properly. Right. There's something about having a woman say, "What's new, Buenos Aires?" And Buenos Aires. Right. Like, you just want to love authenticity to it, and we're saying things like descamisados and
it is your yeah. Okay, I have one final thought on the heels of that, and then we'll talk about your Instagram and we'll move on with our live. Tell me about then in the world of Wicked, where most of the Elphabas are as white as Wonder Bread, is having a different background than what they usually hire ethnicity wise. Mm-hmm. What was that to navigate? Was that a part of the conversation at all because she's green, or no?
It wasn't really a part of the conversation because she's green, and because I wasn't the first. One of the most well-known Elphabas is Eden Espinosa, who is a Mexican-American woman. So it honestly wasn't a part of the conversation. I think at the end of the day, I come into it still aware that I've had a certain degree of privilege, even being a Latinx woman growing up in Miami and being sort of ambiguous and, passing for whatever. And I think it's time that, an African-American woman play that role full time.
Yeah.
And it's the story of I just think that, things could change on that end.
Yeah.
Is what I'm going to say.
Yes, I think it's this, we're in an industry where it's just so many people don't want to think outside the box of, well, it looked like this when it was done, so let's just hire someone who looks exactly like that. And then it's a conversation. And I think of course things are starting to change, but there can always be more change, especially in these shows that have been running for 37 bajillion years.
Yeah. And I don't think it's, a purposeful, I think it's just sort of what happens is people just are sort of blinded by like, Idina Menzel is a certain type. And then, for the most part, there are a lot of women who are just that type, even if you don't look like her, but, dark hair, blah, blah. There's just a certain prototype. And it's happened for Glinda as well. And, Brittany Johnson sort of broke that barrier as the first African-American woman to play the role. But I just think we need to start looking at things a little differently, or just sort of opening our eyes as far as, I think, especially with a show like that or any show, I'm not pointing fingers. It's just what happens is like, you're just trying to fill these slots, and you're just, so you have this idea in your head of like what these women look like. And hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's you get these big blockbuster musicals and they want them to be the same wherever you see them in the world. And sometimes the word the same, it leaves you for zero room for interpretation.
Exactly.
The business side of it, of the product, of the end result, you lose a little bit, I think, of the artistry and the opportunity for other.
Like to have the perspective and the point of view of a Black woman in that role.
Inherently, it will be different. Right?
Yeah. And or any other. There's really only been. Alyssa Fox is half Japanese.
Okay.
And it's only been, white women or light-skinned Latin women, and Alyssa who's half Asian.
Yeah.
Of course, it obviously at the end of the day has to be about the talent and about the ability to do it. But I know for a fact that there are plenty of women out there who could do it.
Correct. Yeah. And, and I think it'll be in a lot of ways, the world of our industry will be a lot of same on the other side, but I think there will be a lot of shakeup too. So it'll be interesting to see where all the pieces land once everything gets plugged back in. Your Joy, congratulations on an incredible career from I dreamed a dream in college to now. It's really, and I have to say, Jacob has dropped into the comments to let us all know that FYI, the broom drop video is back on YouTube. So we all have something to do.
I will not be searching it, but you all have a good time with that.
It's your fault. You said it's probably on YouTube. We're blaming you for the next 4 minutes of our lives after this. Is there Instagram? Is that the best way to follow you if we want to know all things Marianne Torres?
Yeah, Marianne Torres on Instagram. I tend to just post a lot of pictures of my dog, so
Sure. We'll take it. We love a good. Mine is sleeping next to me as we talk.
Oh, so Angel.
we love a good dog in the Broadway Up Close family. You're a dream. Break a leg tonight with your last your second to last performance, and we'll keep our eyes out for you in future projects and all the things.
Thank you, Tim. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Bye. You can just see, I like to see the human side of the artist as they navigate these careers, because you can see where, you can see why people are successful. And I think for me as a human, as an actor, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, talking to other successful people and seeing, did they just fall into it? Was it a plan? The navigation of a career, especially a career in the arts, I think is a really fascinating thing. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I think the best thing about these Saturday talks is just these little moments of humans navigating a crazy industry, and then navigating a crazy industry in a global pandemic it's a fascinating thing. And the creativity and of theater companies and safety and all of that to still bring some theater into the world. It makes me smile. We are getting closer. The vaccine rollout is saying now it'll be done by the end of May instead of the end of July. I cried. Velasco looked at me. I was like, I don't know. I'm emotional. Just let me live my life. All right, you little French bulldog. And so I don't know. I feel like there's some hope on the horizon. These pop-up events that they announced I think it's little pieces that get us closer to the end result, which is all of us sitting elbow to elbow with a mask or without a mask in a Broadway theater once again. So we're getting there slowly but surely. We have 3 weeks of the series left. If you followed us on Instagram, you know that I've edited the rest of the series. It is ready to be rolled out. I want it to be at least a month ahead, and I accomplished my goal, so I can concentrate on other lots of merchandise things. If you followed us on Instagram last night, I dropped our first photo of our new office 11 years later. I finally have a place in Midtown to bring my lunch to and eat at a table that isn't me eating at a table in the middle of Times Square, freezing my ass off in front of Good Morning America. So that will be lots of photos. Follow us on Instagram for all of that. More updates on all new kinds of stuff coming on that front. As always, if you don't follow us, you should follow us on Instagram at Broadway Up Close. Here on Facebook, scroll up to our page and give us a little like there. YouTube, hit subscribe and you'll get all our updates there. And then for souvenirs, of course, BroadwayUpClose.com/souvenirs. Discount code is Broadway10 if you want 10% off on any of your orders. We're almost as fast as Amazon Prime, almost. I'm working on it, but we're pretty quick with shipping. We have lots of new product coming out that I can't reveal to you yet, but we are soon enough in the next month or so. We should have some new stuff for you to hopefully love and enjoy and bring a little Broadway into your life. In the meantime, as always, happy Saturday noon on Broadway. We are officially one day closer to Broadway, and I will see you Monday for week 39 of our Virtual Broadway Tour Series. I love you all. Have a great Saturday, and I will see you then. Bye.